That whole knowledge skills debate is just ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. And I never understand where it's coming from. I don't think there is any teacher out there that would say that knowledge is not important, that knowledge is not at the heart of everything we do. But this is all about really getting kids to demonstrate that knowledge. How do you use that knowledge? How do you understand why that knowledge is important beyond the confines of an exam system? So it's there. And it's liberally sprayed with things like 21st century learning. And, you know, things out there. There are child-centered learning, things like that, things like children and stuff, all that kind of stuff. But don't, that doesn't mean that it's all, reenacting the end of mice and men using sausages. Incidentally, best Western hotel in town, best sausages I've tasted in I've never mixing from the continental breakfast and the traditional British breakfast. Take that, UKIP. Thanks. That's all for me.
He's here all week.
So now we're at this stage. People are out tweeting that. I'm on it! So where do we go from here? I'm a classroom teacher. I've got this poster on the staff room wall. Off you go now. You asked for freedom. Think and then absolutely fundamentally believe that you can't change anything unless you improve the teaching of teachers. I don't care how much in-service day you give me. Seriously, John was talking about that today. Practice and research interlinked, and the time to do that. But if the training in the first place is not in place, then I don't think very much will change. Let me get to that in a second. Right, yeah, okay. So I'm going to talk about this thing. Oh, sorry, I meant to put that up. It was only one bottom, what went wrong? Yeah, come on. Yeah, the Charter Teacher Programme, a couple of people here will know about that. Part of a change in terms and conditions about 10 or so years ago was the introduction of this thing called the Charter Teacher Programme. Now what the Charter Teacher Programme was a programme to give an alternative route from the classroom. In Scotland, and I know things are probably slightly different here, if you're in the classroom you reach the top of the pay scale, there is nowhere for you to go apart from head of department. There's no other route. I'm not sure, is that similar here? Or there may well be other roles in learning, but there was nothing, absolutely no other way of getting out of the classroom if that's what you wanted, other than be a principal teacher, as we call it, our head of department. But they brought this thing called the Charter Teacher Programme, which was a masters-driven programme for teachers who wanted to extend their skills in learning and teaching while staying in the classroom. Sounds great, sounds fantastic. But there was a problem with it, because the Charter Teacher Programme had no role as such. There was no compulsion for me if I went through my master's modules and got my pay salary increased. There was no compulsion for me to take on a role in school, and that sounds ludicrous in hindsight. It sounded ludicrous at the time, quite frankly, but there was no, I could earn that, I could take that money and I could go back into my classroom and not do anything extra. Fine if you're an individual, but resentment between peers was huge. And the Charter Teacher Programme, not particularly supported by management who had no say in the matter but had to pay the salary increments, wasn't supported and sort of died a death about 3 years ago. But when do you recognise this guy? Spike Milligan in The Life of Brian. Now, one of the greatest little appearances in any movie is when Spike Milligan turns up in The Life of Brian. And what happens is, if you know the story, they're chasing this Jesus figure. Think about here, think about the comparisons with education. Everything is a comparison with education. And they're chasing this Jesus figure. Where is he? What's going on? And they're all panicking and screaming, trying to find an answer. And they all sort of disperse. And Spike comes along saying, no, I have it. I have the answer. I have the answer. I have it. And they all just ignore him and walk away. And he's, no, please don't rip it. And then he just says, oh well. And he just walks away. It's one of the greatest little scenes in any movie. The little sort of He's in it 30 seconds, and people forget it's brilliant. But there is a sort of little comparison with teaching there. He says, forcing a metaphor into his talk. Teachers are all scrambling around trying to find the next big thing. The next big answer. What strategy is going to help me? What is it? It's assessment, it's learning, it's cooperative learning this year, it's something else, it's learning styles. Shh. Whatever. It's whatever, and we listen, we try to find it and we're listening. And this guy comes in at the back and says, no, I actually have something. And I'm thinking maybe the charter teacher could have been that guy. Or a guy inverted in an American sense, not male. And he comes like, I've got the answer. And everybody ignores him. Her, him, her, them. But what, more importantly, when they're not listening, and I think we get frustrated with that, he just gave up when he had something to say. And I think one of the messages I think we should be all taking away from today is that everybody here today is a leader. And if we don't go back to our schools on Monday or Tuesday and try and convince somebody else in our school that this is important, then it's just been a day out. Controversial, but I think so. I think we have to step up and take responsibility and not shrug our shoulders and walk away. Even the little bits, even the person in your department that's crying out for something like this but doesn't have the confidence to do so. And I think that's a real key. And I think it was a shame, but I could understand the charter teacher programme disappeared about 3 years ago. Is it not a mystery? The parts cohere, they come together like petals of a flower. They also send their tongues outward to feel and taste the teeming earth. Did you want classic columns and predictable pediments? A growl of Gothic grandeur? A blissfully boring box? Not here, no thanks. No icon, no IKEA, no iceberg. But curves and caverns, nooks and niches, huddles and heavens, syncopations and surprises, leave symmetry to the cemetery. So we're making progress here, I think. We have this blank slate. After that, where do we go? 2011 now, we're flashing right up to date now. Grey hair is starting to appear. I'm starting to be a little more cynical. But I'm still there smiling and hoping for the best. I think on the Donaldson report, the Donaldson Commission, I think it was called Teaching Scotland's Future. What came out in 2010 originally. Graham Donaldson is a huge star in Scottish education. He was the head of HMIE. He's a big voice. He is one of the few people in education that you would want to really listen to for more than about 10 minutes. No offence. So every time. You might hear it, Pieper. Yeah, he's got a vision that is progressive. And he does have a realistic vision, and supporting teachers is what he's all about. And what his report talked about was a massive change in research and a massive change in the teaching of teachers. It's a fascinating document. It's about 60 pages long, but he does a brilliant thing and narrows it down to 30 points at the end, which is brilliant. You just go to the last 2 pages and it's all there. But he wrote this thing, and what it was an ambitious transformation. Scattered throughout the report are a reference to master study from the beginning of every teacher's career. Now he says in the report, one of the things he says in his report, evidence suggests that CPD is often evaluated in terms of the quality of provision rather than the impact on improving outcomes for learning. So we comment on, wasn't that a really good course? Isn't that a lovely green folder I've got in between my cooperative learning? It was great, I've got loads of resources, it was fantastic. And then it goes, whoa. And then you go back to school, storm, and you never have the time to implement it. So I had a great day, it was lovely soup, the buffet was fabulous. Utterly fabulous. Elbowing people for the sausage rolls. But we kind of talk about the day. We talk about today as well. I think it was a brilliant day, fantastic, and the sky in Scotland, rambling on about something. But ultimately, does it change our practice? I'm not sure it often does. And Donaldson recognised that. He also recognised and said this thing: master's level credit should be built into ITE qualifications, induction year activities and CPD beyond. with, interestingly, each NQT, that newly qualified teacher, having a master's count open for them, right from the word go. So it's not just master's study level at ITT, it's throughout their course, and they will be expected to. That's his suggestion, and things are moving towards that. They are moving towards that. I'll get to that in a second. But think about the difference that would make. John talked about the teachers in your school that don't have time, not interested, will never be interested, are 25 years into a 40-year career, yeah, that won't be interested. Am I running over? Sorry, I got a pen. No. No, I'm going to write something down. That else for me,
He's going back a whole century, right?
Yeah, but so interesting changes. But how did we get to the teachers just now? And one of the things that John was talking about, I thought was quite interesting about teachers as well. Here's the thing. This is my big point. I'm going to read this bit soon. We can talk about what we've to teach, how we've to teach it, but if the teachers coming out of training college are no better than we had, then how can things change? I'm an English teacher. Some days I'm a genius. Some days I'm so brilliant. They ought to carry me around the town square singing Hallelujah. Seriously, I'm that poem, beautiful. Other days I should never be allowed in the classroom. Do you know, every single day you've got a lesson, your shoulders go. I was up till 11 o'clock doing that. This is boring. Some days, most of the time I'm very good. And I think most of us are. And I think, referring to the word excellence again in our curriculum, I think excellence equals consistently very good. And I think that might be a controversial thing to say, but we are excellent teachers because we do it very good on a regular basis. And to achieve this excellence, outstanding, is ridiculous show-off stuff. I'm sorry, but it is. And I read on Twitter, I read the same people that criticise Ofsted coming on and saying, "Isn't it wonderful we got outstanding?" Do you know? And I'm not it's great to be told that you're great. I'm going to be checking the Twitter feed afterwards. It's great to get nice. It's great to get nice comments. I'm leaving. It's nice to be told that you're good, but wouldn't it be better to be told we were very good every day? Or just, and I think that's where we get caught up in that in this teaching. Yeah, so I teach 150 kids every day. I mark the books. If you've read my blog, I've got an excessive marking routine that I try and keep up to date. I prepare 24 lessons every week. Like most teachers, I have very little time for research. I try and do it. My initial training didn't prepare me for that, didn't expect it of me. I seek events like this out. I go to teach meets because I am weird. I am weird. You're weird. Look at the weather out there. What the hell are we doing? There has to be a point. What are we doing here? I was one of the founders, inverted commas, of pedagogy. I don't know if you know about, we've heard of pedagogy, or know about pedagogy. A couple of my colleagues started it off, and I kind of got in early on when I saw that, hey, that'll be good. And if you're on Twitter and you see the Pedagogy Friday thing, my fault, I apologise for that. I absolutely apologise for all those streams of things coming on about skills and great things happening. But isn't it a nice way to end the week, though, reading some positivity? And that was kind of the point. But I go out of my way to do that. But if England is anything like Scotland, we are but a drop in the ocean. We are making very little difference. We're making difference, we're making slow difference, but no one in my school knows who the hell I am. They don't know I have a blog. They don't know about pedagogy, or when I've tried to tell them about it, they don't want to know. I tried to organise a teach me.